Hey folks, we're unfortunately going to have to start the episode with some bad news. I regret to inform you that on multiple occasions during the recording of this episode, we were interrupted by cats, and unfortunately, at no point did the microphones pick up either of those cats. I know, it is tragic. I had to cut out several minutes of us playing with the kitties since it was no longer usable. Some of it still got kept, but I couldn't salvage the whole thing. I apologize greatly, but sadly that is just the way life is sometimes. Therefore, kitty, ya papa, ya papa. Ya papa, don't know what to do. My heart is not a game. It's mahjong to you, the listeners of this podcast don't know what to do. Hosted by me, Elena, and or Hedgey, and sometimes featuring our regular co-host, Symbolicgodzilla. Hey, yeah, record time!
I'm back! It's me! Hi everybody, I'm Symbolicgodzilla, or in this case, you can call me Dr. Symbolicgodzilla. I am a doctor of psychology.
Yeah!
And I'm going to be referencing a lot of academic texts today.
Yes. As is often the case when we discuss important things like Ranma.
And Ranmology.
Yeah. I went through that intro very quickly because I start with the Yapapa a lot. But, like, I don't talk about that very often. I don't talk about, I've mentioned before that and the title of this podcast is from the official English lyrics for the first opening of Ranma. But, like, man, what a good localization job they did. I think My Heart Is Not a Game, It's Mahjong to You. I think that's really good lyrics.
That's the official lyrics? Whoa, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, papa, don't know what to do.
I don't think I've ever heard
My Heart Is Not a Game, It's Mahjong to You.
But Mahjong is a game.
Well, it's Mahjong to you.
Oh, so...
My heart is not a game, but to you, it's Mahjong. You're playing with me. I'm like, oh, those are some good lyrics. Also, you wouldn't have heard it because they never recorded it, but they still have the subtitles on the old VHS tapes. And, like, they're not a translation of the Japanese lyrics. It's basically a similar song to the beat.
So, like...
But It sounds like they were gonna record it, but then they didn't.
So it's a lot like the Pioneer releases where they're like, we have a tune and we're going to rewrite the lyrics so that you can sing along to it in the English dub, but they never actually did the recording. Now, I do have a question. If it's Mahjong to you, is it Taiwanese Mahjong? Is it North American Mahjong? Which Mahjong? Because I've heard there's a lot of differences and I don't remember them.
I assume that localization is because of the original song having E Shanten in those lyrics. I'm not familiar with the different types of mahjong.
My friend who plays mahjong told me there's one main differentiation between the types of mahjong, which is it friendly or are you going to kill each other over money?
Yes.
And for me, I like matching tiles.
Sometimes killing each other over money is how you demonstrate your friendliness to someone. If you're not willing to do that, that's an insult. You are not taking me seriously.
I would go so far as to say that it's a sign of intimacy, of connection.
Yeah, all types of connections stem from wanting to kill each other.
Which you could say, perhaps, is an excellently done segue into the topic of today's episode.
That's right.
Is it? I don't know if it's excellent.
So I guess to start, real quick, this technically began as like a grab bag episode where I'm basically at the point where I'm just like, hey, does anyone want to like check out these episodes? Is anyone interested in this? And just who's free, whatever. But like this was a rare case where I was like, what are you interested in talking about? And I could maybe scrounge together some episodes that could be a good jumping off point to that larger discussion.
And in this case, I looked you in the eye and I said, Elena, what is love? Baby, don't hurt me.
Right.
There, I get one.
Well, I don't know. I'd say you give like maybe two more if you want.
All right.
We got plenty of room for that type of humor, of course. But I guess my first question is, why did you pick this topic? What is it about, like, the concept of intimacy in the Ranma series that was something you felt like looking into?
Well, I think it comes down to the way the show is often described is as a romantic comedy with, like, violence. A violent romantic a martial arts romantic comedy. But the romance is very different from a lot of other romantic comedies that you see. And it's very character-driven, but also the characters sometimes are growing and changing. And as we studied it, I looked at, the real world versus Ranma Earth, and we've seen some differences. We've seen, we know that there is an omnipresent overriding will, like a god, that forces comedic events on these people. We know that fighting spirit can allow a panda to write with a Sharpie pen. But there's something in the nature of these interactions between people that somehow struck me as fundamentally different from human society as we know it. For example, like if we're watching an Earth-based romantic comedy, we're not strangers to love. Like, we know the rules, and so do I. That didn't work.
Still counts. You got one more.
Okay. Yeah, but I don't have a third song. Mom's Spaghetti. There we go. So I was curious about how is it the same and how is it different? Because the characters remind me a lot of jokes you would make about the movie 50 First Dates, where they have to restart relationships from the beginning every story arc. And we've touched on this with Ranma and Akane, how they make progress in the final beat of a story arc, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to start off the next story arc in the same place. At the end of the conclusion, they embrace and he catches her and he either says something stupid and she slaps him, or he says something sweet and she hugs him and says, "Oh, Ranma." But that doesn't mean next time. And yet there's still this sense of a building relationship.
Yeah, it's less progress and more just reaffirming the development that we've had to get to this point in the first place.
And so I'm thinking about all these different characters, and obviously many of them are wacky. These are a lot of them are jokes more than characters, and I wanted to look at what they're doing and why and how. So first of all, I would like to bring a psychological textbook that I've been reading lately. It's called psychologytoday.com.
Yes.
Have you heard of it? It's a respected academic source.
Yes, and this was part of the mandatory research, of course.
Yes. So first of all, let's talk about what intimacy is. Intimacy is, this is sourced from simple.wikipedia.beta.wmcloud.org. Everyone knows Wikipedia, right?
Yes.
But anyway, intimacy is feelings of closeness between partners in a relationship, which can be friendship, any kind of relationship. They are often connected with or confused with sexual feelings. But intimacy in general has more to do with, and this is according to Simple Wikipedia, shared moments and experiences than it does with sexual interactions. In general, you'll find that healthy relationships have a lot of intimacy, and that it's kind of basic to meaningful relationships that are either romantic or friendship-based. And I'm going to drop the rest of this to go into the Psychology Today article. We have 5 basic types of intimacy that I want to look at. The first one is physical intimacy, and this is sexual or non-sexual. This can be anything, obviously when Kuno grabs Akane from behind and she's angry at him, that counts as physical intimacy, but it's not good kind because she's mad at him. But also, like, when Ranma is holding Akane as they are falling and he's trying to keep her from dying, that's physical intimacy. Hugs are physical intimacy. Sleeping with your baby pig is physical intimacy. All of that.
Yeah.
Emotional intimacy, one of the things I'm going to be looking at is, does this show up in Ranma? That's sharing your thoughts, your feelings, your fears, your hopes, your dreams, feeling heard and understood by another person. This is what Ranma is really bad at. And Akane is pretty bad at it too. Intellectual intimacy is about beliefs and viewpoints and ideas. And as we know, everybody in Ranma is kind of dumb. And so they don't have a lot of things like beliefs and viewpoints. They do have some ideas, but they're usually kind of weird. And no one is giving Hapasai intimacy for his curiosity and interest in braziers. And I kind of wish maybe they would. We've got experiential intimacy. This is when you're doing stuff together, shared experiences, or working towards a common goal. So for example, in that kind of jokey scene where all of Ranma's friends get together to fight, I can't remember, was it Hapasai that they were all going to fight together that first time they gathered?
Pantyhose Taro was the first time the Team Ranma was formed.
When Team Ranma forms, even though they're all like planning on using this for their own benefit, they're still working together for a goal. So they're getting that sense of experiential intimacy of the shared moment, even though they think they're going to try to kill each other.
Yeah.
And lastly, we have spiritual intimacy. This is things that give you a sense of awe or wonder or something bigger than yourself. This is like the serious version of going into the woods and seeing it contains a bunch of 10-foot tall, silly cartoon squirrels and being like, whoa, wow, look at that.
Life-changing.
Yeah. So physical, emotional, those are the main ones. Intellectual, our characters are kind of dumb. Experiential, very common in the show. Spiritual, not what comes up. The other thing I want to look at is the barriers to intimacy, because we have a lot of characters who have that. And I'm going to go through the ones they list. The first one is insecure attachment, which I don't want to go through too much, but this is when in childhood you had a lot of issues with dependency, fear of abandonment, and you don't form healthy bonds very well. For example, let's say your dad was always shoving you in a room full of cats covered in steaks. Maybe you've got some trust issues with the people in your life who are authority figures, because you're scared they're going to shove you in a room full of cats covered in steaks. I feel like that would harm someone.
Yeah. Might have some lasting effects.
Yeah, you'd be hesitant to build intimacy. And then there's past trauma. This is like abuse or neglect. These things create fears and mistrust that make it hard for you to build with someone else. Losing someone important to you, being shoved in a room full of cats while covered in steaks. All of these things could really cause like a sort of trauma and panic reaction. Past relationship disappointments, whereas if you find out a previous relationship ended in betrayal or heartbreak, and this is usually romantic, but friendships have this sort of thing too. For example, if I was trying to figure out how to make this one about shoving Ranma into a room full of cats covered in steaks, but that doesn't really work.
I mean, if you previously had like stray cats that you befriended, which was likely to happen if you were a homeless child, well, suddenly it's going to be very hard to continue being friends with those cats if they remind you of your past traumas.
But this one we can also look at Ranma, because that's apparently what I'm doing. Ranma has had at least 2 old friends show up in his life wanting to kill him. Ryoga and Ukyo both showed up and said, I'm going to beat you up now, Ranma. And he's like, oh, my buddy. And they're like, we are not buddies. Now, time has changed that and softened it, but we gotta remember how dangerous and disruptive these 2 characters were. And that doesn't even get into things like the time that his teacher was blasting him with key blasts at school.
A teacher hired specifically to teach him a lesson.
Low self-esteem. I don't think this is a Ranma thing personally. He almost has an unhealthy level of ego. But people who don't believe they are worthy of love and connection often sabotage their own abilities. This is... I might look at Akane for this. Where she's like, I'm not feminine enough. I might look at Ryoga sometimes for this. And fear of vulnerability, which I feel like this is one of the primary things in the world. Being willing to open yourself up to someone else, being scared of being judged or rejected, or hurt, or seen as lesser. It's so hard for anybody in this world to open up. Even when they do, there's only rare instances of it being okay. Like, Ukyo opens up to Ranma, and they have some intimacy there because, she reveals her intimacy and he cares about her. but he never really acknowledges the pain that his family has caused her. He's just like, hey, wow. And then the last one is more of a our world than Ranma world, and this is stress and overcommitment. This is if you're busy, if you don't have room in your life for nurturing relationships. Most of the Ranma characters are deadbeats who don't really do anything with their lives, so they've got plenty of time to focus on their relationships, assuming that they can get past their own fears, insecurities, and trauma.
I mean, we do have at least, like, Ranma's mom having zero affection for her husband, probably because he dedicates his full time to martial arts, and she never interacts with him.
I found an interesting note about that. Also, you were talking a while ago that they were probably poor, like a poorer family. There is a translation note I found on the first release of the Viz manga that suggests that the housing that she used to live in that got destroyed was tenement housing. I found a whole website that I keep meaning to send you about interesting. It's a collection of old fandom notes about stuff as they were translating them, and it dates back to 1998. So I think this might be some stuff for you.
Yeah. That's the kind of stuff that Internet Archive robbed from me.
And you might have already found it. The Cursed Pool of Jusenkyo. Ranma-related.blogspot.com.
Ooh, that sounds good. Yeah, gimme.
For example, it does some page analysis where it's comparing images of Ranma versus the way things look in real life that I think is very interesting. So anyway, but that's beyond the scope of today's episode because we have three excellent, I would say, some of the best Ranma ever created to watch today. First of them is called Shampoo's Red...
Hold on.
Too fast? Okay.
Yes, too fast.
All right, I slow it down. I know you're not ready for that degree of intimacy. I understand. So
now, yeah, I suppose that's a good breakdown of how intimacy works in the real world, as exemplified by this very scientific, very reliable source that is unquestionable. It's, psychology, yes. Very famously, incredibly rigid and solved, and no ambiguity or variety there.
You know why they call it psychology today? Because psychology is still happening today.
It's exactly the same as it was in the past.
Yes.
You've listed several good examples, and I guess the focus of this episode is just going to be to, just sort of break down, what does intimacy mean to, maybe not the world as a whole, but just in general to the cast of Ranma.
Yeah.
And there are some things where it's this is consistent throughout, so that could be a Rumiko Takahashi thing. And There are some things where, clearly different characters have different ideas on what they value, and that's more reflective of that individual rather than what is good intimacy overall that most people would agree with.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about the way a lot of people judge these relationships through the standards of our world, which is how you end up with fanfics like The Bitter End, where they assume Akane is an abusive partner because she hits Ranma so much. And it's there's something else going on here. It's not that simple. It's you can't judge these cartoon people by the standards of our world. It's a different culture.
Yeah. For one thing, the concept of hitting each other, very different in a martial arts cartoon world.
Mm-hmm.
But, there are still traces of, consistent world building of just, well, this is how it works. Most of our examples are gonna boil down to Ranma and Akane, because if I'm being honest, I'd say a majority of the Ranma cast, desires intimacy. They seek it out, but they maybe don't have much of it or display much of it in their life. It's kind of like a thing in the future. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but in the meantime, characters like Moose are still just trying to reach the point where they can talk to the person they like without getting punched in the face.
I've got a couple of theses that I would like to lay out in advance. I'm not certain these are going to be borne out throughout the episode, but I think these are going to be probably pretty solid. The first of which is most relationships in Ranma are characterized by either yearning or disdain. And if you yearn for someone who disdains you, that is the norm. So for example, you've got the Moose shampoo. You've got the kind of weird Nodoka Genma relationship where they don't hate each other, but they're just kind of keeping it at a distance. And then you have exceptional relationships where it's more complicated than that, where like Shampoo doesn't just feel disdain for Moose. She feels, I don't know how you would describe it. He's her little puppy dog, ducky dog. And then you also have the relationship where you start to get vulnerable and then you panic. And that's Ranma and Akane in a nutshell. And then lastly, you have an interesting thing that I would describe as you're so busy imagining it or being yourself, you forget that you're yearning for someone. And this is Kuno and Ryoga.
Yes. Very idealized.
And these will all come up. I might make a few references to the movie, but I am going to primarily focus on these 3 episodes. I looked at them and I saw some comparisons. So if we don't hit something in these episodes that I think is important to point out, specifically with Kuno is where I'm going to look.
There's definitely the movies. They gave Ukyo the shaft, but they love Kuno. The 2 main movies are the only ones that include him in the whole Team Ranma dynamic.
I've noticed something in our dialogue lately. Ever since that Yukio episode, you have been using the phrase "give Ukyo the shaft" a lot. Is there something you want to tell us?
Maybe I should. Maybe I should use a different expression then. Anyways, there's a variety of relationships. There's a variety of examples. The biggest ones by far are gonna be Ranma and Akane, since that's basically maybe not the only relationship, but that's the relationship that's like the overwhelming majority of screen time that actually gets to be fleshed out and developed. We have the most to break down as far as those 2 are concerned, whereas everyone else, it's kind of like, well, we can get an idea of what they think intimacy is, but they don't have a lot of opportunities to execute on those beliefs.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting, and this happened on air on the podcast, my shift from being a Yukio shipper, Ranma Yukio, to Ranma Akane. That's in a past episode, and you can go back through the backlog, and you can identify the moment that it hits me that I think Ranma and Akane are good for each other. And that's a shift.
Yeah, just play the Ralph Wiggum freeze frame noise of the exact moment it happens.
So can we jump in now? Can we get stringy with it?
Okay, so I guess before we break down any specific details, how would you describe what Akane thinks intimacy is?
One thing I've constantly thought, and really through this was really laid clear, is that Akane... Have you heard of the 5 love languages? They are physical touch, acts of service, quality time, martial arts, and food. Those are the 5. As noted in Anything Goes 5 Love Languages by Ranma Chapman Saotome, the famous book. So I think for her, she gives in the form of food. She wanted to give in the form of martial arts. We see that very early on when she wants to spar with Ranma. But it very quickly changes. You've sent me some pages from the first outing where we see her cooking, and she's cooking in the woods, and she's trying to show it off. But a lot of her key emotional development is built around food, and we see this relationship with her food multiple times. In the first movie, one of the biggest moments for her is when she goes to give the main villain a meal that she cooks for him, and despite having intense dietary specifications and needs, he eats all of he tries everything she makes, and it nearly kills him. And this completely bowls her over, and she is... I don't want to say she's in love with him, but it's such a major act to her. It feels like compassion and love for her. And when we get into one of the later episodes that we're going to cover today, that is the central stake that no one except Ranma understands. There's a lot of other stuff going in there, but I think, she looks at her mom, who is dead, and she looks at Kasumi, who is her replacement mom, thanks to Sound's misogyny, and she's like, oh, this is how you tend house. This is how you show care for a family. This is how you perform femininity. And then she looks at Shampoo and Yukio, and, you know, they are graceful and good fighters and good chefs. And that's everything she wants to be. And everything she wants to give her partner. And I think that's very important.
Yeah. Of all the things listed, the food is the most fascinating because, like, the reason I shared those screenshots with you, they're from the Breaking Point arc. And I find those interesting because you can see the exact moment that food suddenly becomes important to Akane. Those first few pages in that arc with Akane in it, she is showing zero interest in food. And in fact, both Son and Kasumi are encouraging her to cook meals for Ranma, which to me implies that they are not aware of how bad of a cook she is.
Well, she's never done it before.
Yeah, that is the implication. She has never even attempted to make food like this. And when presented with this opportunity in the typical, you know, practice for your future as a bride, she didn't seem to care for it at all. She seems almost resentful of the fact that she has to come along just to take care of Ranma and Genma. She seems we see her chopping firewood with her bare hands to make the campfire. She is prepared to be on this camping trip as a martial artist, but the training isn't for her. The men are training, and she's here to tend to them, and she doesn't seem to care for that. And that is very understandable. But then they try the food, and very obviously do not like it. Ranma makes an excuse to leave, and Akane tries it and realizes it's bad. And from that moment onwards, food becomes one of her primary motivations. Like, literally her exact reaction is like, well, he didn't need to run away. I worked very hard at that. Like, she's not upset that he didn't like the food. She tried it and realized it was bad. She knows it wasn't good. She didn't like it either. What offended her is that Ranma didn't appreciate her effort. Even though she failed, she still tried to take care of him. She still attempted to fill that bride role that she didn't even want to do. Despite her failings, she still wanted recognition and acceptance, regardless of how successful she was. There is a level of, there's a level of intimacy, of a type of intimacy that she expected Ranma to reciprocate back to her. To me, that chapter, I feel, is the point where, like, compared to the first couple chapters where she doesn't even want anything to do with Ranma, to me, the Breaking Point arc is one of the first signs that, like, Akane has reached the point where she's not saying it, but she has kind of accepted that she and Ranma are fiancés. She is starting to expect certain behavior from him that you would expect from an intimate partner, and is getting upset when he doesn't perform that exact intimacy that she wants. And that's what I find fascinating.
Let me go a little further. This is actually a point of actual intellectual commonality with them, and perhaps even spiritual commonality with them. We know already, we've discussed how Ranma will not lose. And if something is going to defeat him, he will cheat, and he will come back and he will beat it. Akane was beaten by cooking. So first of all, yes, she's embarrassed. She's upset that he doesn't appreciate her, but also she wants to be good at it. She wants to defeat cooking. She desires to slay macaroni and have someone else eat it and enjoy it. Not necessarily just for Ranma, but also for herself. And that's a commonality they both have. They see a challenge, and they want that challenge to not, they don't want to just survive the challenge. They want it to lay broken at their feet. Like, I don't have a metaphor here. So that's a very telling commonality between them. And that's going to come up multiple times. The other thing is she's going to try a bunch of different things because much like Ranma, Akane is crafty. She will think laterally about problems. She's not just brute strength. She will consider other alternatives. She will go directly challenge people. And that's also going to come up today, especially in the first episode that we talk about.
Yeah, I suppose, last thing I want to go there, before, because I know the example you want to bring up, but...
Do you?
Maybe. But you tied it to, like, Ranma's stubbornness when it comes to martial arts. Mm-hmm. And you saying that made me think about, like, think of arcs like the fine dining arc, mm-hmm. or the fight against, Ryukumon, the fake Ranma guy. Like, arcs where Ranma has to, like, train in some type of style of fighting that is dangerous or harmful to him. Mm-hmm. Like where Ranma is struggling, like, actually struggling in his attempts to surpass an opponent. And every time that happens, Akane behaves very concernedly. She is mm-hmm. worried for Ranma. There's this almost sort of, like, you get the impression that, like, Ranma has to win, and it doesn't matter what happens to him in the process. He will harm himself. He will literally starve himself to learn how to beat this guy at fine dining. And Akane, compared to her response to when she fails at cooking, she accepts that she fails and wants recognition for her attempts anyways. You get the impression that, like, she doesn't think it's a problem to lose. The thing that matters is that you tried. Ranma tried. He attempted to defeat those opponents and initially fails, and Akane seems ready to show him a level of intimacy, to give him assurance and support mm-hmm. beyond just encouraging him to win. Akane doesn't need Ranma to win.
That makes her unique also, because even the people who care about Ranma the most, people like Yuko, they will applaud and cheer on Ranma when he's doing the most dangerous stunts, whereas Akane is like, wait, this could kill him. That's no good. She's honestly much less cracked than the rest of the cast.
Yeah, which, again, it shows that, like, martial arts is important to her, but it's not the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
She's showing that, like, at least with her relationship towards Ranma, martial arts is no longer taking priority.
So, are we ready to start untying this thread of romance?
Yeah, on the subject of Ranma and Akane and presumably food somewhere in there. I believe you suggested, like, you going over your notes and summarizing these episodes and me filling in details. So sure.
Oh, no. Do that? No. My notes are perfect. You're going to find that my notes contain no inaccuracies and leave out no relevant details. You're going to find this to be completely true. So let's start with episode 83, Shampoo's Red Thread of Dread. Now I watched the dub because reasons. So it opens up, we've got the Jusenkyo guide who has canned arthritis that he is selling to Cologne and Shampoo. And Cologne is very unhappy because she thought she was buying canned arthritis cure. And they're going back and forth, and that's annoying. And that's just the introduction because he has a special object for Shampoo. Now, you may not know this, but Shampoo sometimes stumbles across a special magical object that can make Ranma magically fall in love with her. This has never happened before and will never happen again, except for all the times that it does. This is a red thread of fate, and if they are tied together for 5 hours, they are bound for life. So, you think she's going to go use it on Ranma, but the first thing she does with it is choke Pichan to death.
Not intentionally.
It is funny, though. And then, after a while, she finds Ranma, and she's like, Ranma, play Cat's Cradle with me. And he's like, what? What the hell are you, what? And he's like, I'll give you dinner for free. And he's like, oh, fine. So she bribes him to play Cat's Cradle with him. And Akane gets very mad. And splashes Ranma with a big barrel of water, making a huge scene and complaining that that Ranma and Shampoo are making a scene in the street. And Akane says something very telling here I think we need to look at later to consider some of Akane's orientation. Akane says, girls are less trouble anyway. But in the ensuing melee, Shampoo does manage to tie the red string around her finger. Shampoo and Ranma are holding hands because their fingers are tied together by the red thread. And anything you wanna correct me on so far? I think you'll find that I've been doing perfect summary.
Yeah, that is basically the episode thus far. I do like just like. I love how, like you joked, but, like, at this point, this is just what Shampoo does.
Mm-hmm.
It is, like, we'll see, we'll even see later on, like, the cast knows that Shampoo is just the type of person that will do random magic things to trick Ranma. And so I love the bit of her, like, doing the cat's cradle. Like, Ranma can tell she's up to something. And all it takes is the promise of food to make him throw caution to the wind.
Now, very quickly, Nabiki is looking at this and is like, something weird is going on with that string. And Shampoo's looking like...
Yes.
Shampoo's like, it's supposed to be invisible. That's weird. So anyway, I'm going to fast forward a little bit here. Because very quickly, Ranma and Shampoo are talking about food and inviting her mother, his mother-in-law, to live with them. That's the dialogue in the dub. Now, we, as far as I know, have not met Shampoo's mom. And she's going to come up again. This is not the final reference to her in this episode. And that's I think is going to influence a lot of what we have to think about with Shampoo. And so suddenly, my phone just made a noise. So suddenly, it becomes a huge fight. You got Kodachi, Kuno, Ukyo and Moose all show up with their own individual goals. Of course, Kodachi is like, no, Ranma's mine. Ukyo's like, no, Ranma's mine. Kuno's like, no, Ranma's mine, but I don't know her name. And Moose shows up because he wants to marry Shampoo.
You skipped over some minor details, but the thing that I want to bring up, and this is not really relevant to our topic, but like this, I love this episode because of what it does. This episode is like, listening to your summary, a lot of characters get involved, but you're able to describe what each of them are doing individually, which is not how it usually happens when we get these rival roundup moments.
There's one thing, if you're going to talk about this, one of the things we're going to see in this instance is that they are actually not working against each other. Ukyo, Moose, and Kodachi are going to be working as a team in this episode because they all want the same thing, which is to break this marriage up.
Yeah, but even then, like, usually the rivals, when they're all present, they kind of function as a unit. They are one obstacle, that obstacle being this boss gauntlet or whatever. They all show up to do their one move or their one joke, and that's about it. What I love about this filler episode is that every character, like, even though most of them have the same goals, their arcs throughout the episode are not identical. Like, I really loved the scene, like, the joke, of like, you mentioned the trio of Ukyo, Kodachi, and Moose. The way they meet up is funny, 'cause, like, first is, like, Nabiki going to Ukyo to tell her about the wedding, which is already more than we usually see. Like, we're seeing the exact process of how does Ukyo find out, and also the fact that apparently out of all the people to go to, out of all the people to inform, Nabiki chose Ukyo.
Yeah.
She knows what she is doing.
Yeah.
And, like, Ukyo then gets her spatula, she gets ready to fight, she starts running towards where the wedding is gonna be, and then Moose pulls up next to her, running in the same direction. I just love the little moment where it's like, oh, hey, you're going to, yeah, let's go this way, yeah, like that, like, they just kind of, I like to imagine that happening regularly, 'cause Again, the rival roundups, the characters just all show up at once. But it's just funny to just see the moment where they bump into each other on the street and realize they're both going to the same place. Like, oh, you're gonna stop the way. Okay, yeah, cool. And then while they're doing that, then Kodachi runs next to them like, I must stop the wedding! And I love that dynamic.
There's also something important about this. Kuno is actually against them because Kuno, I remember now, he wants the wedding to happen because if Shampoo marries Ranma, male, Kuno can marry Akane because obviously without Ranma around, he will be able to win her over. No problem. Because of it worked so well before Ranma showed up. Now,
exactly.
We get some very interesting couple activities between Shampoo and Ranma. This is what they do together. They dash around with their fingers entwined. And I mean like cutesy, like their pinkies or like two fingers are wrapped around each other. And they're running together. They're just running all over the place together. They're not really doing anything. They're just like, we're together, la la la. It's very like, are you 5? Are you pretending to do what adults do?
It's especially funny because, like, the implication is that under the effect of the red thread, Ranma will pretty much do whatever Shampoo wants. I don't think that this version of Ranma would be like, I want to show affection this way. It's very much, this is what Shampoo wants, this is how we show our love to each other. Which implies that, yes, this is Shampoo's idea. This is how Shampoo expects this relationship to work once Ranma is unambiguously in love with her, is just frolicking like children, which is kind of cute.
She's got a very specific 2-aspect relationship view, Shampoo does. Number 1 is lighthearted affection, which is a lot of like skipping around, holding hands. Hey, I love you. Let's go on a date. What is a date? I don't know. Let's go do it. And then the other Shampoo side is very, I'm going to call it a teenage understanding of physical intimacy, where she wants to jump into doing stuff without thinking too much about it. She wants a sex life. And that's not going to come up as much in this episode, but it is a thing that comes up with her. Now, the next scene that's really interesting is Cologne gives Shampoo a dress. And she says that she never got married.
I also found that interesting because the subtitles in the subversion I read didn't have that exact statement, but like Cologne's body language, where she's kind of like fidgeting as she's talking about the dress, she's kind of almost embarrassed talking about, because the way it's brought up is Shampoo's trying on the wedding dress and Cologne reveals that she had it made for her wedding, as she's kind of like fidgeting and acting embarrassed. The dub version takes it even further and implies that Cologne never even got to wear this dress in the first place.
That's what I said, I think.
I just think it's an interesting, if that is a dub invention, or if maybe like something about the Japanese version led to that, but like, even if you're not listening to the dub version, the body language is still hinting at something.
There's a backstory there with Cologne. Now, when we went back to insecure attachment, a lot of that is learned from your parents and your parents' relationships. So we know Shampoo's mom is out of the picture a lot. Unless I'm wrong, she never shows up in the story. Nope. Cologne, her grandmother, had Shampoo's mom, who I'm going to call conditioner for the sake of simplicity, out of wedlock, probably. With someone who probably beat her. She doesn't seem to worry too much, but she never successfully married the person that she was supposed to marry, even though they did have a child together. And then Shampoo's mom is gone, which suggests that Conditioner, fought someone, lost, had a child with them, and returned to the Chinese Amazons, which I really hate that translation, and I wish there was a better term for it, returned to Shampoo's group, dropped Shampoo off to be raised, and then returned to her husband. And so what this means is Shampoo was raised by a single grandmother in a society that also values collective parenting, but it still creates an interesting backstory for her in terms of how she would have seen relationships and intimacy modeled between people. And also this puts an interesting perspective on why Cologne treats her the way she does. She is very harsh to Shampoo, and we're told it's just the laws you have to do these things. But you could also interpret it as Cologne, who never got married and whose daughter is now far away, really regretting it, wanting Shampoo to be happy, pushing her to follow the rules of the society that she lives in. And I also have an adjacent theory to this that I'd like to bring up here, if that's all right.
Sure.
All right. In the second movie, now I'm not going to go too far into the second movie, but everyone gets a potential new match. And Shampoo's is this kind of deep-voiced, mysterious martial artist guy wearing a cool mask. And they're in this room and in shadow, and Shampoo says, "You'll have to take me by force if you want me." And he's like, "Well, then I'll take you by force." And then she has this like wicked smile on her face, and then she's like, "Come on, let's do this." And it's very, like, she doesn't think this guy can beat her, but she's also, in that scene, I feel very, if she loses that fight and he wins, she appears to have made the acquiescence to, well, he's the guy, if he beats me, okay. And that transfer from Ranma to the potentially losing to another martial artist, we don't know the laws on that from her society, but we do know if she gets beaten by a guy, she has to marry them. And that's what she tells Moose all the time. Like, beat me and you can marry me, but I can't see you that way if you don't. And this guy, he's at least competent enough that he has a chance. And he's he's got this cool voice and he's got this mysterious fighting style and he's got a lot of money. He's he's in this wealthy island where he's got a lot of, he's very close to a king. And she's like, all right, this could be good. Now, he loses the fight and they unmask him and he has a chicken face, and then then Shampoo and Moose make fun of him. But for a moment, she's like, yeah, I'm willing, if you can beat me by the rules of my village, to carry that out. I think Shampoo, it's not that she doesn't like Ranma. I do think she likes Ranma. I do think she has a lot of affection for Ranma, maybe even loves Ranma. But a lot of that is driven by her performing idealized womanhood of her society. What she thinks she is supposed to be doing and what she thinks it's supposed to be looking like. So it's not that she doesn't want to do these things, but she is acting out the role.
Yeah.
And so, like, if, for example, she looked at Ryoga and Ryoga looked at her and they're like, "Oh, you're hot," and then Ryoga beat her in a fight, I don't think she would be sad to date Ryoga. But they've never had that moment. But if they did, she could transfer her feelings fairly quickly because that's the society she's performing. And she's very good at performing femininity. She's very good at performing these roles. She doesn't understand what they all mean necessarily. Like, she wants to go on a date. She doesn't necessarily know what you do on a date. She wants to have sex, but she doesn't really understand what sex is going to mean to her because, well, I mean, she's, 16, 15?
They never say her age, but yeah.
She's emotionally immature. Not like for her age, but she's a teenager and she's kind of an emotionally on the younger side of the cast. She's not particularly empathetic. And then she's coming from this society where she did not have, her primary bond was with Cologne, who is very strict, loving, but strict. So she's got this weird attachment style that focuses on the physical and the external and doesn't really look at thoughts or feelings, and even to a degree sets aside emotions and ideals in favor of martial arts. And I think that's very interesting, because if what you're saying is true and the string is taking her values into effect, then we can look at this as a episode as a statement of her values. And it's all about the trappings of love and the trappings of intimacy rather than actual intimacy. That's the aside that I wanted to go with.
Yeah, so, that's sort of the crux of this. Like I said, I love this episode because it kind of gives a little bit to all the characters. It's not just, like all this that we've said about Shampoo, that's more than you could probably gauge from your average Shampoo arc. Like, look at the arc where she feeds Ranma the little hypnosis buns. And, it's more or less the same, but not as much. There's less implied there. It's just kind of a weaker version of what this filler episode does. Or, I guess, in terms of chronology, this filler episode kind of expands on what those arcs were already doing, but does more with it. While also doing similar things with other characters.
And we're going to see that in a second with Kuno and Ryoga.
Yeah.
All right, so after that touching scene where we learn way too much about Coulon's family life and Shampoo's family life, Kuno does bondage with Kodachi. That's what the notes say, so the notes are right. That's what it says it right here.
I mean, I don't remember what specific moment you're talking about, but like, yeah, for most of the episode, those two are just kind of fighting in the background.
I think he ties her up to stop her from doing something.
That sounds like something that happened.
And then we get, Ryoga cuts the string with a pair of scissors. And then Shampoo is like, wait a sec, look, why do you want to cut this string? Why are you stopping me? And he's like, oh, I didn't think about this. And at first I was like, Ryoga is sacrificing his happiness to cut it. No, he was just being a dumbass. And then Ryoga has this imagined spot where he and Akane are skipping arm in arm. And here we get that yearning and imagining where, yeah, Akane's never going to do that. Akane is not a skipping arm in arm kind of girl. I mean, maybe once as a joke, but she's going to like roll her eyes the whole time. So he agonizes over, wait, should I cut this or not? Meanwhile, Ranma is just kind of standing there, and Shampoo is just like hanging off of him like she's a femme fatale in like a spy movie, like, you know, like a girl who is decoration for the villain, where she's like got one arm around the back of his neck and is like pressing her chest against his, and she's just like leaning off of him, and she's giving like the evil eye to Ryoga. And, you know, Ryoga, if I remember correctly, he doesn't make a decision and Shampoo just manages to fix it. And eventually they get tied up. Does that sound right? I don't remember.
Yeah. I'd like to go a bit more over that.
Sure.
Before, cause after this is more or less the final section. But like, looking at the characters, I mentioned that like Kodachi and Tatsuaki are basically just fighting off screen the entire second half of the episode. They're just kind of having this sort of like rivalry spat. They're not engaging with the rest of the cast. Once it's established that they're on two different sides of this feud, they just focus on each other in this fight, and everyone ignores them. Meanwhile, you got Moose. Moose enters the room and is immediately splashed with water, and then spends the rest of the episode just flapping uselessly as a duck. And to me, that's also noteworthy because Moose is the one person Shampoo was prepared for. He literally just enters the room and she deals with him because she knew he was gonna come.
Is that at the wedding? Because we're not there yet.
No, before that, when they get to
she had the trap set earlier. Oh yeah, you're right. I remember that now.
Yeah, like literally as soon as like the main rival group shows up, Shampoo immediately deals with Moose. And again, it's not much, but that does show that like she was prepared for him. She understands Moose. She didn't expect other characters to show up, or maybe she did, but she didn't have a specific plan for them. But again, like there's a level of familiarity there. She can predict Moose exactly, and he is not a threat. And then we get Ukyo, and I find her fascinating because again, she's the only one who we see learning about the wedding because she was specifically informed by Nabiki. Nabiki is going out of her way to try and essentially sabotage this wedding, because it's sort of implied that she knows Ukyo is going to get involved once she learns. She's not just randomly deciding to get dinner and casually says it like it's gossip. Throughout the episode, Nabiki is trying to encourage Akane to do the same. But like, the other thing that I find of note about Ukyo, she is the only one that actually makes it to the chapel of the little side rivals. She's the only one that actually succeeds making it to the end, and that's when Cologne steps in and stops her, which I also find interesting. I
mean, Cologne's powerful.
Cologne could have intervened at any point, but she waits to see if any of them actually make it to the end. Ukyo is the only rival that actually posed a threat. If Cologne was not there, Ukyo would have interrupted the wedding. So it's only when that point is reached that Cologne intervenes and starts helping Shampoo.
And this goes back to that relationship between them, I think, which is very formative to Shampoo, where she knows there's this trust. So even though there's this insecurity about who she is internally, there's this trust and reliance and just absolute belief in her support system, both the culture and her grandmother, that they will be there for her, that lets her act out the values of that culture without question.
Yeah. The last rival, though, is, like, you talked about Ryoga, and, like, you described what is essentially the culmination of his arc, which, admittedly, I find kind of weird, cause throughout the episode, this is a rare case where we see Ryoga witness Akane's vulnerability as Pichon. Like, part of his conflict is that he is initially excited, but then changes his mind after seeing Akane's reaction. He sees, like, Akane insists to everyone that she is not bothered, she doesn't care what Ranma does, but when she thinks that she is alone with her pet pig, not knowing that that's Ryoga, that's the one time she shows vulnerability and starts actually crying and making it clear that she is upset and she is sad. And that is what provokes Ryoga, which is why I find that scene interesting with Shampoo, because, like, his motivation was to stop the wedding because it's making Akane upset. And then he can't commit because Shampoo is like, but then you get Akane. Which implies that he didn't think about that.
If we go back to my statement about intellectual intimacy, these characters do not have a little intellect to be intimate with. Hibiki being the exception.
But basically Shampoo is essentially suggesting that Ryoga, you can be the rebound. You know, like, she doesn't have to be upset. Like, she'll be upset for now, but you can cheer her up. You can pick her back up.
And that's the thing is that Shampoo knows, I think, that this is a lie. Because she's never just breaking up Ranma and Akane so that she can rebound Ranma. She goes straight for win Ranma over because she knows that's not how rebounds work. Just because you're handsome and there and you have a 50-ton bandana or a wooden sword doesn't mean they're gonna go for you after their boyfriend dumps them. And so Shampoo is always trying to be a value add. So she's also being crafty in a way that I think the language undercuts. Like, sure, her speech, she sounds very childlike, but she's not. She's superficial, but not dumb.
Especially her body language shows that, like, she is aware that she is essentially preying on Ryoga's weakness. Which is another thing I like, because we don't actually see Ryoga and Shampoo interact very much throughout the series at all. Yet here, Shampoo is demonstrating she knows exactly how to get Ryoga to do what she wants. Not in the same way that she's prepared for Moose. She can predict Moose's exact moves because she knows him well. She lives with him. There is an intimate connection there, whether she'll admit it or not.
What she does to Moose is a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, your next move will be. And what she does to Ryoga is a Joseph Joestar, like, I quickly read you and I have a thought about what you're going to do next. She doesn't quite get to...
exactly.
Even if she is superficial in terms of what intimacy is, she's not superficial in her ability to read people. Except for Ranma.
It's almost kind of like demonstrating a level of respect for Moose that she doesn't show Ryoga. She didn't have a plan for him, and she didn't need one, because literally, like, she just says the first thing she notices, and it works. Ryoga was the least of a threat to her out of all the cast involved. He was the easiest to deal with, despite the fact that I'm pretty sure he gets the most screen time on account of him being present during all the scenes with Akane. Like, it's almost building up like Ryoga is gonna be the hero. He's gonna do this for Akane. He's gonna learn a lesson, but the instant Shampoo gives him the temptation to go back and be like, no, this is good for me, he breaks down. And the way he breaks down, it's like, as is often the case with Ryoga, he knows that what he's doing is kind of shady. He knows that he's being dishonest to Akane by pretending to be Pichon. He knows that what he's doing isn't morally good, but he can't resist. He can't resist the temptation to take this opportunity. Like, he almost, like, feels disgusted at himself that he is allowing Shampoo's speech to work, but it works. And then he just stops being an obstacle immediately.
But we also know, like, his power, one of his most powerful attacks comes from his depression and low self-esteem and self-loathing.
Yeah.
Which, if you recall, is a barrier to intimacy. And this is not, he doesn't use it here, but that fuel, you know, he's comfortable hating himself and doing things that make him hate himself. And this is going to come up again. This comes up again in a lot of other places. Now, can we get to Akane celebrating the wedding? Because I think this moment is beautiful.
Yes, because this is essentially the final scene is we get the end of Akane's arc in this episode, and I also love this moment, so go ahead.
Alright, so we know there's a time limit on this string. 5 hours. We're almost there. Akane knows most, if not everything about it, because Nabiki has informed her. And she has given up. And she shows up at the wedding with a bouquet of roses for Shampoo. And Shampoo is so proud and happy and excited that she thinks Akane just is not a threat. She completely discounts any possibility. And Akane...
I actually did get that read from her.
You didn't get that read from Shampoo?
No, but like, hey, go ahead. I'll have something to say on this in a bit.
Yeah, let me finish the freaking story. I'm going to tell it like it happened, and you can make up your fan fiction, all right? All right, so Akane shows up, and she's like, I can't win. I can't win against you, Shampoo. You got the magic string. You're strong. You're a cat. You got the cheepow. You got the big boobs. You got it. You win. And Shampoo is like, thank you, Akane. Thank you. And then Akane gives her the flowers. But Akane did not actually give up. She was being sneaky. And she has a pair of scissors hidden, like, where under the bouquet. And she just, I mean, it's not as fast as Ranma's, like, chestnuts on a roasting fire attack, but she just goes to town, destroying the string, and it's just in pieces. And Ranma wakes up, and he is like, this is weird. Last I remember, I was playing Cat's Cradle. What's going on? Which suggests something very terrifying about what the string was going to do to him. And all of the other characters, all the bad guys who were doing violence, just kind of stop. Everything stops. And Akane and Ranma go outside, and she laughs, and he's like, what the heck? The end!
Yeah. The other rivals, they don't just stop, they show up, but before any of them can do anything, Akane just grabs Ranma and they run out together. And Ranma is just confused. And Akane doesn't explain anything to him.
No.
She doesn't elaborate. She's just like, yeah, I won, basically, is her attitude. That's all that matters to her.
And she's happy. She is joyful. And she's not like teasing Ranma. It's more just like she's like laughing, and he's confused. And so let's take a look now a little bit closer at some of this stuff. Let me just pull this up. Let me look at my notes. So of course for Shampoo, we got some very superficial physical intimacy. She doesn't try to do sexual things, but she does. She's close to him. They are always touching. It's not just the string. They are holding hands. She is hanging from him like a cape. It is very intense. There is no emotional intimacy at all between them in this episode. They do not have feelings to talk about beyond Shampoo winning. Intellectual, nothing. Ranma isn't experiencing this. So he's not having experiential intimacy.
He doesn't remember any of it.
And no one really understands that this is an on-inducing post of thing magic. But Shampoo is fine with this. And this is where I go to the insecure attachment for Shampoo, which we talked about a little bit earlier. She's got this really complicated relationship to what couples are. Because the only successful couple she knows directly is her mom and dad, who, as far as we know, she might never have met.
Well, I will put a wrinkle. Her dad does exist, but unfortunately, all we ever see of him is restaurant orders.
All right. Does he live in the village?
I don't know. They never elaborate. But he lived with them in Japan for like the first couple of chapters after Cologne is introduced.
So I think for her, this is not about intimacy. This is about fulfilling her role both for Cologne and society. I think that's really, really a lot of it.
As long as she wins, as long as she gets Ranma, that's all she needs.
And Ranma is a cipher in that, which is why I wanted to bring up in the movie where she's like, okay with someone else filling that role, even. Ranma's individuality isn't key for her and him to fulfill that societal role that she feels driven to feel. Which again, is not a slight against her. Many people are crushed by society's pressures on them. But that does create a lack of intimacy at first between them, because on some level, he is replaceable. Even though she likes him and ideally would prefer it to be Ranma.
In fairness, by the end of the series, Ranma is literally fighting gods. So if someone proves to surpass Ranma, that's no slouch.
Well, they don't have to beat Ranma. They just have to beat her.
They don't have to beat Ranma, but also, like, Shampoo never really loses to much anyone in the series. Ranma's pretty much the only person that, like, unequivocally beat her in combat. That's
why I think she was excited in movie 2 when the mask guy is like, no, look at me, I'm a ninja. And she's like, okay, ninja, I'm willing to entertain this violent flirtation. And then he, totally beefs it. Interestingly, also very important is Ranma letting his mother-in-law move in with them. That's very important. Most of the antagonists, they're just busy violently chasing the objects of their desire. They don't even necessarily have contact with them. It's that distanced yearning that I talked about. That is, to me, the standard Ranma universe display of emotion that we would call love is, I want to be with you, so I'm going to chase after you in a cloud of chaos. Furniture will get broken. I'm not sure what happens next, because usually I get punched in the face. That is the default for most people, most named characters in the show. That is romance.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to go to Ryoga. Ryoga's interesting because he has this mix of, he cares about her as a person, but he's torn between that care and this childish yearning to be with her. Now, in this one, he's thinking very innocently of them holding hands and skipping, not unlike what Ranma and Shampoo are doing, but it's juxtaposed with his willingness to engage in his low self-esteem to just dick her over and do something that would make her very unhappy, but make him happy. So that's going to get in the way of their building of intimacy. So that creates a darker, like, he wants to build intimacy, but his self-loathing and his willingness to be a jerk get in the way. My last two people I want to touch on are Akane and Nabiki. We got Akane, who is really, really sneaky. But she's willing to be like Ranma, because this is a Ranma move. Ranma would totally cheat to win. Yes. You know this. This is a Ranma move. She knows the weakness. She sneaks the weakness. She plays into the other person's ego. And then she goes straight for the weak point. No hesitation. Total overkill. She doesn't stop with one snip the way Ryoga does. Ryoga stops. He cuts it once. And then I believe Shampoo ties it back again, and then he cuts it again. Akane has no mercy for that string. And no mercy for Shampoo. She cuts it up and she books it. And that is very interesting. And while that's not necessarily intimacy, that is them having shared what I would describe, that's a level of intellectual intimacy in the sense that they have these shared ideas about how things should work. And lastly, the main thing I'm interested in Nabiki is just how quickly she solves the mystery.
She immediately catches on. Nabiki is basically like, there is a weird artifact and Shampoo is constantly using weird magic artifacts. That string is magic.
Yeah. It takes her, she doesn't know everything right away, but by the end of it, like, she's giving Akane Batman everything she needs to beat Shampoo the Joker. Now,
yeah. In fact, that again, that's what motivates Ryoga, is Nabiki attempting to give the scissors to Akane, but then Ryoga takes it as Pichon. And then he fails, but then Akane comes to the same conclusion on her own.
Now, are you ready to leave the red thread of dread?
But real quick though, before we move on, I did mention I had a different read of Shampoo.
Yeah, you did.
'Cause to me, I got the sense that Shampoo was being cautious. She didn't come across as if she actually believed Akane. She was being kind of slow and hesitant, sort of. Like, maybe, like, the idea that Akane would show up just to congratulate them, I get the impression that Shampoo is basically like, she's up to something, but I could take her. And, like, this goes into why I love this scene, is the way, like, Akane wins, but, like, as you said, that's a Ranma move. Akane doesn't, like, defeat Shampoo in hand-to-hand combat. She outsmarts her, because the whole thing to, like, butter her up wasn't just to get close to the string, it was to cut it right before the 5-hour mark. So then the string disappears. Shampoo doesn't even have time to tie it together, even if she could.
Yeah.
It's just like immediate understanding, and again, the way she doesn't even inform Ranma of how she won. She doesn't expect him to praise her. She's just satisfied knowing that she won.
It's a very interesting moment.
Yeah, and again, going back to earlier in the episode, Shampoo is parading Ranma around in their house. They go to the Tendo house to be like, we are so in love, we're gonna get married. When, like, it's almost like she is trying to rub it in. She is literally parading Ranma. She's letting everyone know, he loves me now. I have won. Even Son gets a rare moment of trying to talk to his daughter. About the fact that, like, Ranma has chosen someone else. He's offended. In most arcs, he just, like, does the big head move and gets angry, and that's it. But here he goes to Akane's room. He tries to comfort her. And, like, is trying to process this possibility that, oh, in, like, 2 hours, Ranma is going to marry someone else. We lost. So to me, that's also something I read into Shampoo's behavior in this episode. It's not, again, she needs to win. As long as she has Ranma, and getting Ranma means she won. She has his affection. It doesn't matter if she had to use magic to get it.
Yeah.
She has it now. No one can take that from her. And then they did.
And that goes back to that. It's the role that matters. It reminds me a lot of the, like, you know, what people would say about, like, you know, the stereotypical 1950s housewife, where it's like, you're performing the duties of the housewife. You're keeping the house. You're doing the things you're supposed to do. It doesn't matter how you're feeling inside. You're doing the external stuff, and that is what is important. And I think that's very interesting with her. And it might sound like I'm insulting her or demonizing her, but I'm not. I'm analyzing her. And when at the end of this, we're going to send all of these kids to therapy. And I think hers is going to be very focused on that. Are you ready to leave the worst of these 3 episodes to go to the best of them?
Oh, sure.
Now, yeah, that's a bold statement on that one, right? Now, this is a difficult statement for me to back up, because this is the thing. All 3 of these were fun. If you want some Ranma, these are all hits, I think. None of them to me are skips. This is not Ukyo got a new skirt territory. So let me tell you about episode 87 with the great specific title, Ranma, you are such a jerk.
Yes.
She's never said this before.
No, very, very memorable quote from that one episode. The one time she said it.
This is a emotional drama episode.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. We start off, Akane is doing bridal training. Now, we mentioned this before. She doesn't do this a lot in this series, but it is on her mind. Especially in the anime. She wants to be a good wife. Specifically, she's cooking. And Hapasai is back from doing Hapasai things, who cares? And he kicks Ranma into the dish that Akane has just finished, and I must add, successfully made so it doesn't look gross. It looks like a pie, if I remember correctly. It looks edible.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know if it's good, but it looks good. Normally her food looks disgusting.
Her food always looks either burnt or like it's like rancid. It looks like the Homer Simpson sandwich that he couldn't finish.
We're not talking like comedy anime food that's like purple goo. We're not talking the ninja vampire. There's a ninja vampire in Is This a Zombie? Her food literally melts iron cookware. This
is just a pie.
Yeah, and it looks good. Now, the destruction of this food is significant because it's not just food she was making. It's not just, I tried so hard for days and I finally succeeded. Check out my masterpiece. This is a special celebratory food to commemorate 2 years since Ranma moved in.
Yeah, do not ask about the weird timeline of this series where apparently 2 years have passed, but they're still in the same grade.
I'm sorry, but I am asking because we already proved that there is only one Christmas. And that means all of this takes place within 1 calendar year. And yet, it's been 2 years since Ranma arrived, and I have a solution for this. It's called the dilation and stretching of time, okay? On the calendar level, time has, the year is smaller, you know? Each individual day is smaller, but the year itself, it's stretching. So what we have is we have a 720-day year, or something like that. Hold on, 730.5 day year. That's how you can have 1 Christmas and 2 years. Right? Check my math. Wait, did I hear a kitty?
Yes. Therefore.
Yeah, I forgot to raise my beef with you. I would expect by now you would have made "Therefore Kitty" the tagline of the podcast. That was like the perfect line, and you haven't used it once. I've been listening.
Yeah, I guess we just gotta wait on the cats.
You need to have a whole thing of treats just for your cats to make them appear on your podcast. That's what any good shampoo fan would do.
Train your child by like tying cat food to them and making them do a podcast in a room full of cats.
Yes.
But yes, kitty aside.
This weird time-dilated universe, Akane is heartbroken, and she's mad at Ranma. Now, is this Ranma's fault? I think it's Hapasai's fault. I think, you know, Ranma is a jerk about it. He's defensive.
Yeah.
We've already talked, he has an allergy to being vulnerable, which means he has lots of trouble apologizing, which is not to say that he is without flaw, but it is not his fault.
It is also worth noting that, like, she doesn't inform anyone that this is the reason she's upset until the end of the episode.
It's not just that she doesn't inform anyone. That's going to be more important than you know, Hedgey. More important than you know.
Well, I'm just saying that, like, as far as Ranma is concerned, he's made a mistake that he's done several dozen times before, and Akane has never gotten this mad.
No. This episode is going to prove you wrong. You have already lost, and you don't even know it. Omae mo lost deru. All right. So Hapasai kicks him into the pie. Ranma's being a jerk about it. I'm being attacked by a cat now, who is demanding that I play with him with a murder toy. Hold on. Let me get you. Here's your murder toy. Look, murder toy. Look, murder this instead of me. Okay. So, she takes off running, and everyone's chasing her. But then we cut to Ryoga, who has a present for Akane, which is food with an expiration date. Because, I don't know, he somehow gets, like, on the superficial level, food, Akane, something. But also, he's not playing to his strength, because the expiration date is a big deal, and he's worried that he's not going to get there, and I think he thinks he knows he's close to the dojo. And then Akane runs by him, and he's like, oh, hey! And then everyone else runs by him, because the dads... Oh, this is one of the worst episodes for the dads. They are chasing Akane and begging her to come back. They are not listening or considering her point of view at all. They are just running after her. And this whole episode, every time we check in with the dads, They go somewhere else, they're running, they're crying, and I wrote in my notes they are performing male incompetence. Now, if you don't know what performed male incompetence is, this is when a guy, in order to get out of doing something, either consciously or subconsciously, either comes to believe or acts like they don't know how to do a thing, and then doesn't try to learn. So, for example, I don't know how to do dishes, you gotta do them because I'm just a boy. In this case, they don't know anything about Akane at all. They don't know where she might go, they don't know what's bothering her, they just know something happened and it's Ranma's fault. Ryoga, seeing this train of people chasing Akane, assumes that Ranma has done something disgusting. That's right, he assumes that something physical, as in physical intimacy, but not necessarily intimate, happened between them, but forcefully. He assumes Ranma forced himself on Akane.
One of his harsher assumptions.
And he assumes this a lot. This is not the only time he's going to ever think this in his life.
Not the only time, but like other times he at least has some kind of reason to jump to that conclusion.
Like there's a physical contact involved. Here she's just running and crying, but he leaps to that conclusion. I don't remember if he's in the rest of the episode. He doesn't matter very much, honestly.
Yeah, not really. He's mostly here to just yell at Ranma for screwing up.
The middle part of the episode is not that important. It's hijinks, and everyone's looking for Akane.
Yeah, most of the episode is everyone looking for Akane and not finding her.
But the end is Ranma goes up to the spot where he knows Akane is going to be. And here's what I wrote down. Like, he has met Akane on the roof several times before. I don't know what season this is, but I remember this being one of the things I remember about Ranma 1/2 is Ranma and Akane on the roof having a heart-to-heart. Is a thing that I remember a lot of.
Yeah, a lot of scenes happen on the roof.
And we're going to get a ton of demonstrated caring for her at the tail end of this episode. No one else, not Ryoga, not the dads, not the sisters, know where to find her. No one knows where she is. Ranma shows up, finds her, and then something happens and she falls off the roof, right? He catches her and helps her, prevents her from being falls, lands, takes the hit. I can't remember if he falls in the water, but he probably does. And this calls back to some other stuff we've seen. Now, if you recall in the episode, we've already discussed the episode where Nabiki and Ranma date. The inciting factor of that is Ranma catches Nabiki instead of Akane. Now, in that episode, I specifically said catching Nabiki was and you agreed, catching Nabiki is the right choice because Akane is better trained to take the hit of the fall. But, and this is where it gets thorny because relationships are complicated and Akane is a emotional teenager, as they all are. What is the primary form of emotional positive connection that she gets from Ranma, that she gets over and over again? And this is, she's falling. He catches her in his big Ranma arms, and then either he gets hit, or he has to destroy something he wants, or there's a whirlwind of death, and he gets beaten up and she doesn't. You know, it's pretty standard, you know. There's like 4 times in the series where
common instance.
It's just, you know, over and over again. It's if there is a romantic trope for a positive depiction of intimacy in the show, I think it is Akane in Ranma's big manly arms, being held, like, you know, protectively, but not insultingly. Like, he's tougher than she is because of the training, so he's going to take the hit. And then he's also giving up something he wants in that moment, oftentimes. In this case, he has displayed intellectual and emotional intimacy, knowing where she would go, knowing what bothers her, knowing that the cooking is important to her, remembering what she said at the beginning of the episode, realizing that, oh, this wasn't just regular her upsetness, this was extra important to her, going to her, and then all of that culminates in this moment of physical intimacy, which in another story, in a fanfic or in, you know, certain novels might be a makeout scene or a sex scene. Instead, it culminates in a saving scene because that is what Ranma is good at. That is when Ranma is able to give physical intimacy. You know, he's not so great at a hug, but he's very great at a hug while also protecting you from getting shot by a gun. It's much easier for him emotionally. And I think that's very interesting. And it's also interesting because both of them, we learn no one else knows her the way he does. Not even Kasumi and Nabiki, who care about her and arguably respect her more. And the dads, this male incompetence stuff, they are such bad role models to both of them and have always been this way as far as we know. The concept of remembering what someone would do and thinking about what's actually bothering them is so far outside it. Sound responds only based on, are you making my daughter cry? And she's been kidnapped. So with Akane, you get this connection between, it's been 2 years. She actually cares about Ranma. Cooking is love. Cooking is femininity. Her being bad at cooking is an issue for her. It's where her self-esteem is low, so it's where she's vulnerable, and she is bad at being vulnerable. And then Ranma, even though it's not his fault, gets punched into this thing that symbolizes all this stuff, and all of that stuff comes together, and it's such a huge deal for her. And then they come together, and they have a little talk, and then he catches her, and it's very sweet. And I'm going to argue this is peak Ranma. This is a very good episode.
Yeah. The thing that I find interesting about this episode is that, like, on paper, it is the most vanilla thing imaginable. Mm-hmm. The episode is literally titled, Ranma, You Are Such a Jerk. It is practically named after her catchphrase. Mm-hmm. The entire plot is Akane gets mad at Ranma because he was insensitive. And that is it. Very little happens in the episode, and at the end, they just have a touching moment. If you were to just summarize it in a couple of sentences, it would sound like, well, that just sounds like every episode of Ranma.
This is like if you named a Family Matters episode, Did I Do That? And then somehow it's...
Oh my god, I'm imagining an actual, like, serious drama episode where everyone is legitimately mad at Urkel for going too far.
Yeah. If they had done that, maybe the woman who played the mom at first wouldn't have left, but they kept doing her dirty, too. But the thing that's really interesting is, like, Ranma does the impossible in this episode more than he has ever done or will ever do. Because we know he can blow up a mountain with his ki blast. He's Goku. He's girl Goku. He's girl-ku.
Half the time.
He's a shonen protagonist. Yeah, one half, like the title. He's a shonen protagonist. He's gonna do the thing. He's gonna win the fight. The thing that is never guaranteed is he gonna actually not just avoid putting his foot in his mouth, but actually have his foot in his mouth, take that mouth off of his foot, put the foot on the ground, wipe the saliva off the foot, brush his teeth, check his breath, have fresh breath, and then not have his foot in the mouth afterwards. And that's what he does in this episode. And I think it's really worthwhile to see, and it's very sweet. And it's the shortest one I had the fewest notes on, because, ooh boy, is the next one juicy. Are we ready for the next one? All right. This is called... Yeah?
Hold on, let me say something.
No, it's my podcast now.
Oh no, you succeeded. I'm falling for the trap. Okay. Anyway. Well, I was just gonna say before we move on to the next episode, like, it is interesting how, like, this episode I can see someone not caring for it because, like I said, on paper it's not doing much new. But it's just the fact that it's a lot of things that happen regularly in the series, but they're never treated with serious drama. This is a very dramatic episode, and that's what makes it noteworthy. They're being dramatic about normal, mundane things, and that's part of what makes it feel more intimate. It's not something extreme, it's just the normal day-to-day life things that affected Akane the most. Yeah. And I could see why you think this is the best of the three. Which is good, because next up is what I think is the weakest of the three.
This one has so much going on in it.
Before we cover it, is like the first, the red thread one. I've talked about what I like about that. It's doing something different. Same thing with Ranma, You're Such a Jerk. But then we got a third episode that, like, it's not bad. I think it's good filler, but, like, it feels the most like filler. It feels the most like this is an episode of Ranma.
I think this was almost a very good episode.
Yeah.
One thing I just realized is this episode, the episode before, the You're a Jerk episode, reminds me a lot of the cooking episode, OAV. It's one of those ones where it's kind of quiet. The plot is quieter, the stakes are lower, but the characters are still themselves. Now, in this episode is episode 102, Ranma the Lady Killer. And this is an episode about Ranma revealing his alternate personality. It turns out, secretly, underneath the dojo, he has dug out a basement where he has been catching and killing women over the past half a year, ever since he came to came to Narima. And that's why, for example, Nabiki's friends are not in the show anymore. And Akane finds this out. And they have
the lady killer at it again.
Duel to the... Okay, no, this is... I'm making it up. What this episode is about, this is about tying up Ranma, covering him in stakes, and throwing him into a room full of cats. Only now, instead of cats, it's women. The way it starts is Shampoo shows up and goes up to Ranma. And she is a cat. And she's waving the cat in his face.
She doesn't even get to that point. I assume that's what her plan was, but the cat runs away before she can do that. I gotta say, not her best plan. Compared to the whole red thread thing where she's like playing like 3D chess with Akane, here her plan is, I got a cat, go on a date with me.
That's a very simplistic view of human psychology, because Shampoo knows at this point that Ranma is terrified of cats. And what she is doing here is what's called psychological abuse, in which you are using weaknesses of your opponent to break down their personality until they agree to give you what you want, so you take away the thing that is causing you fear or distress. That is what she is planning on doing here, I think.
Alternatively, for all we know, she was planning, because it looks like she was planning to release it into the room, like, not just go up to Ranma with it. For all we know, maybe her plan was to rescue him from the cat, to win his affection. Who knows? Again, the cat runs away before she gets to use it. She's like, no, kitty cat, come back.
All right, look, if there's a girl I like, and I arrange someone to attack her, and then I show up and I beat the guy up who I hired to attack her, that's not me being a good person. All right? That's
definitely. She's still being Shampoo. It's still a form of psychological warfare, but it's less of a psychological attack, and more just manipulating the fields of war.
It's a very real-world brainwashing kind of thing to do to someone, is what I would say in this episode. It's very dark. Now, the thing that happens here is, just as a reminder, when Ranma was a small child, Ranma was covered in stakes and thrown into a room full of cats as a way of teaching him the cat fist. But Ranma has consistent PTSD about cats that has never weakened or gone away, and it is a major thing, and it's a big deal. It's one of the reasons to hate Genma, if you hate Genma.
Honestly, because of that, big props to Ukyo in this episode, because not even Akane seems to show sympathy towards Ranma's cat phobia. She's often the first one to make fun of him or insult him for not just getting over his fear. Whereas in this one, Ukyo is the reason the cat gets away. She notices Shampoo's up to something and stops her.
Yeah, but that doesn't stop her. Shampoo gets a date out of this cat attack, and so does Ukyo. Both of them are like, yeah, well, if Shampoo gets a date because of your cat panic, give me one too. And Ranma's like, fine. So I don't think she's that great in this moment.
Well, she doesn't join in on the cat part.
Right, but then at the end, when okay, look, let me lay out the sequence of events, all right? Shampoo and Cat leaves, Ukyo fights Shampoo, Ranma says, fine, Shampoo, I'll go on a date with you. Ukyo says, go on a date with me too if you're going on a date with her. He says, fine, and then he dies.
Yeah, that's accurate.
He's just dead. For the whole rest of the episode, he is a corpse. So she does not mind taking advantage of his self-destruction. Not self-destruction, his mental blowout to get a date with him. She's not too good for that. And I was shocked to see that. And then, so he's got these two girls who are gonna go on a date with him. And then he looks over to Akane and he's like, you're not jealous, are you? And Akane's like, who you wish, who you date is your business. And she blames him for leading them on. And here, we got an interesting moment. Now, I'm going to hold back on what's going on. I don't want you to give the reveal yet, all right? Because there's a journey on this episode. Ranma then starts acting real nice to Akane. And it's kind of sweet. He's talking to her. He's like appreciating her. And then the parents show up and ruin the moment. And they are so excited that Ranma and Akane are having a nice moment that they run off and it's pegging time for them. They're so happy that they're gonna, look, they're a couple. We know it. This episode confirms it. These two.
Yes.
Boys in love.
Son Genma, absolutely.
All right. And then Kasumi shows up. And this is going to get interesting, all right? Because in this moment, Kasumi ends up DTR. That's the hip new slang the kids are using. It means down to Ranma. Ranma holds Kasumi's hands and hits on her. And Kasumi's like, hey, Sound, who is watching this, it's fine. He's just hitting on me. It's no big deal. And they're holding hands. And she's like, she's into it.
Maybe not into it, just like not really fazed by it.
No, she is so into it. She is gleefully consenting to going on a date with Ranma. It is not halfway. This is not, she's not like fighting for it shampoo style, but she was like, yeah, let's do this. She is a happy woman in that moment.
I am on board with not revealing the main gimmick of this episode yet, but I just want to say, I hope someone listening to this is very confused. Because this is fun trying to imagine this episode without the main context. I'm enjoying this.
Well, I'm going to tell you the experience. So, what the heck is happening here? What is this episode about? Oh, this must be a psychological fallout episode. He's got love fever from the cat. He got scratched by a cat, and now he's flirting. He's got cat scratch fever like the song from The Bad Man. That is what is happening. That is my current operating theory in the episode. He's got this little Band-Aid over his nose because the cat scratched him on his nose. And so they put a Band-Aid over it and he's walking around with a Band-Aid the whole episode. And I'm like, that wound, that is the source of this. And it turns out I'm not very far off from the truth. Then he goes up and he starts flirting with Nabiki. And we get some interesting insight into Nabiki because up until now, Nabiki is very good at doming Ranma. We know this. Nabiki can dom other people. She doms Kuno. In movie 2, she doms Dogboy. And we've also established in the Nabiki episode, she's not going to marry Ranma because, she gets what she wants from flirting with him. She gets the comedy. She gets the togetherness. She gets the intimacy. They are an intimate pair. Whether that means they are a romantic pair is distinct from that. But when she's always dominant. Even in the times when they are dating, when Ranma has to break up with Akane and gets with Nabiki is dominant almost all the time. But here, Ranma is putting the moves on her and she is flustered. And she's like, what the heck? And then we get a very weird thing from Akane. Akane, this is what I wrote down. And maybe you remember what this is. Akane has self-confidence only because of men. Which was a weird thing for me to write down because it's not something I think.
Well, there was the scene where it's after Ranma is nice to her and just kind of flirting with her properly, and then the dads interrupt them. But then the next scene is like she's helping Kasumi do the dishes, and she's just kind of smiling and giggling, and Kasumi comments on that. She's like, oh, did something good happen with you and Ranma?
She only gets like that because of Ranma, which is not characteristic either of Ranma doing it, but also she does crave that. She craves those affirming words, which is not one of the 5 love languages, as I previously said. But I think that falls under martial arts.
Yes, I got that.
Yeah. So the other interesting thing here is Akane says, "Oh, we're never going to get married." She's denying that she and Ranma are fiancés, which is kind of weird at this stage in the game. This is episode 102 of the series, by the way.
She regularly says things like that, but her behavior suggests that she still expects her and Ranma to behave as fiancés. She is still expecting a level of intimacy from him. that he needs to perform adequately. And this episode shows that when he does perform it, she is very happy.
Is it performing of intimacy or performing of the role? Because those are two different... She has expectations in both of those.
Performing the role of an intimate couple as far as what she thinks that's supposed to be.
And I think she also, though, she likes it when he is also doing it. That's why the openness and the rawness in the previous episode is so meaningful to her, because she also likes that. But instead what we get is a really great sequence of events. Shampoo attacks Yukio with forks and wins. And Ranma is just willing to date anyone. He's flirting with everybody that he meets. Specifically, people with a feminine appearance.
Yes, a real lady killer.
None of them are dead, as far as I know. But we can't rule it out. We did not actually manage to get access to the basement underneath the dojo, so no one knows what secrets Ranma might be hiding in his murder basement. So Ranma and Shampoo go on a date. Now, Shampoo was always like, Ranma, go on a date with me. But we never actually see them get to go on a date very often. And here we finally see what Shampoo thinks a date is. They are on a boat, and what she wants to do is pounce on him and make out. So they are on a scenic boat on the river or on the lake, and she wants to make out on the boat.
Very shiny lake.
Very shiny lake. And so again, we get that very okay, you got the scenic spot, you got the physical affection. This is what she thinks a relationship is. She's jumping straight to it. She has no hesitation now. I'm not saying they were going to get more physical than that, but I mean, she's a teenager. This is an appropriate level of intense physical passion for her developmental stage.
I mean, the other day I did share you that scene from the final arc where she literally drags a tied up Ranma to bed, gets in bed with him, and then he tries to distract her by suggesting they take off their clothes, and she's like, oh, that's a much better idea. Let's do that. Which implies that she wasn't planning to do that in the first place, despite taking him to the bed.
Now, I don't know what was happening in the context of that scene. I don't remember. But here, it's what I'm saying. As a professional psychologist, as a doctor, as a medical doctor licensed to write prescriptions and perform surgeries, which I will be doing for you later. I'm doing an appendectomy for you after the show.
Oh, yeah. I've been needing one of those.
I mean, I know you've already had one, but you can never be too careful.
Makes sense.
So this is appropriate developmental progress for her. It's not wrong. I'm not judging her for this, but it is a very superficial understanding of what a relationship is. Because, her willingness to torture Ranma is a little bit concerning, I would say. But Yukio shows up and grabs him. And they run off. Now, my description of the show sort of falls apart at this point, my summary.
Yes. This is a part where we're finally told the thing that you skipped over.
But here's the thing. No one is judging Ranma's flirtation with everyone. At first they were annoyed that he was flirting with other people, but now it's just fine. Ranma can flirt with whoever. He's not getting pushback from anyone. So Ukyo's on his arm, and he's looking at other women the whole time. He doesn't have object permanence. Okay, he looks at Yukio and he's like, you're the one I love. And he does all these things. Then he looks at Akane and he looks at, whoever's right in front of him. And then as soon as they walk away, he's forgotten that they exist. He's like a 6-month-old. And what he says to Yukio as they sit on a bench is, those girls mean nothing to me. What I want is a woman. And that's when he leaves the episode to go date Miss Hanako. No, she hasn't shown up. We end up in what I think is those warehouses that all the floor is rotted through, so there's only floor on the side of the building. And so if you're on the 4th floor, you can look down to the 1st floor. You know how those are very common in every residential area?
Yeah. The abandoned areas that if a supervillain destroys it, it's fine because there were no people there.
And a lot of stuff has happened, and I'm skipping over a lot of it because who cares?
Who cares?
The important thing is everyone is fighting over Ranma. And Ranma, I don't remember how this happens, but his Band-Aid falls off. And Akane is pushed off the side of a ledge. And you're never going to guess what happens. He jumps off the ledge. He catches her in his manly Ranma arms, and they crash into a pile of debris, and he protects her. Because it matters who he is in love with. And the reason he was acting like this is because that Band-Aid that he wore on his nose was Hapasai's magic Band-Aid that if you wear it on your nose, you're very charming to the ladies. But I think it's worn out now and he used up the magic, so it's not going to work anymore.
No, it just fell off during the fall.
Oh, they lost it? So it's just sitting there waiting for it to end up on someone.
Maybe. I will say, like, the scene where Hapasai is explaining how the bandage works is, like, slightly different when I listen to the dub and the subtitle, but, like, he does try to give it, like, a faux, like, Eastern medicine sort of explanation that, like, it mixes with the oils on your skin to, like, evaporate, and then you, like, it's because it's around your nose, is how the little incense on it works. He calls it an aphrodisiac in the subtitles I saw, which I found very interesting.
I think that was said as well. And it's weird. And I don't know if I like that more or less than he has a panic reaction and instead of becoming good at martial arts. Because the reaction, the cat fist, what happens is when he's in cat panic mode, he becomes virtually unbeatable. However, I thought it would be an interesting twist if it was a cat-focused, socially unbeatable. But that would also be hard to transition back from. So, you know what? It's a magic item that he's wearing that Hapasai never used, and that Hapasai left in the first aid kit. So way, way back at the beginning of the episode, when he got scratched by the cat, and he died, the bandage revived him and made him sexy. And made him considerate of people's feelings for as long as he can remember them, but also destroyed his short-term memory. So he became a very charming person with ADHD.
I will note, so now that we can finally go back with proper context, so Magic Band-Aid turns Ranma into a lady killer. I will note that unlike with the red thread, Ranma does recognize what he is doing. For the first half of the episode, he has several moments of, why did I do that? Mm-hmm. Like, when he first flirts with Kasumi and, like, Son scolds him, Ranma's just confused. He's like, why did I do that? That doesn't make any sense. And there's a really good moment in the dub where they chose a specific phrasing that I love, where he's like, but I don't even like girls.
God. Which, look, there's something there. Also, but here's the thing. All of the girls Ranma also, I feel like, one of the big questions this episode raises is Ranma not interested in any of these women, or is he, like many teenage boys, interested in every woman he finds attractive? I would argue the second, but I think there's room for the first.
This is why I find it interesting that Hapasai says it's an aphrodisiac.
Yeah.
'Cause, like, again, the fact that Ranma does remember what he's doing, he's confused why he is behaving in ways he does not intend, but is still compelled to do such things. That sounds like an aphrodisiac, kind of, except, like, it is demonstrating more what Ranma thinks intimacy is, what Ranma thinks attraction is. Ranma is acting out on some kind of instinctual attraction, and it results in him behaving like a playboy.
And here's the interesting thing with this. He is able to give people what they want. He's demonstrating the same ability that he showed in the previous episode, which is to be sensitive to what the other person is thinking and to respond to it.
He is an observant person when he allows himself to be.
Yeah, and so the vulnerability and the panic that have previously stood in the way of him getting intimate with people are let down. And now, I argue this might be him having a desire for intimacy that has previously been suppressed, now set free, since instead of working through his issues, they have been magically removed. And I think he's got affection for all of these people. Now, of course, people often confuse intimacy and romantic intimacy. Like, they're not always the same thing. So, like, for example, with Kasumi, does this mean he wants to bone Kasumi? Maybe he's 16 or whatever. But also, maybe not. Maybe he's just confused. the point is that he's still able to communicate with them. We also get an interesting focus on what he is like as this, because here I think we are getting his version of how to do this. So he's never pushy.
Yeah.
He's not like the ice skater guy who is interested in women and obsessive about them and wants them to do things. He's not doing it Kuno style where he's like, come with me and let me tell you about this historical thing that will bore you to death. He's like, I want to hang out with you and let's chill. You know, he's got a very specific approach, and I think that is interesting. So the bandage almost removes the trauma, but he's so unused to not having the trauma that it almost spills over into how he connects with every single person he sees. And it's hard for me to tell, is this him being hyperactive? Is this him being a jerk? Or is this in some way who he really is when freed from his trauma? Because he does have that ego, and he does like to impress people. He does like to make people happy, even total strangers.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely read it as like he recognizes that he will receive affection from girls when he behaves this way, and that's what he craves. It doesn't matter who it is or how much he receives. Just, here is a source of intimacy. Here is a source of affection. I'm going to act on that. My impulses have been disengaged, and now he's just behaving accordingly.
Now, I want to look down at the specific things people are doing in this one. For example, Shampoo and Ukyo don't come off great in this episode. They're funny, but they're taking advantage of a traumatized human being. And their entire goal in this episode is one item, which is the marriage license. They talk about that repeatedly.
Yeah. Of note, they eventually find out about the bandage, so they are behaving with the knowledge that Ranma is being influenced by magic, and are deciding, well, now's the chance, right? Now we can just make him sign whatever. They're gonna take advantage of the moment. And since he would be willing to do that, because he's willing to give anybody anything right now, marriage license is what they want. And they are very dedicated to that, which I think is not great considering what they've already done in this episode. And that's kind of sad. Akane has a very interesting moment where she says, well, how do you feel? And this is what I wrote down. She asks Ranma how he feels, and then she gets owned by Ukyo and Shampoo. I don't remember how that happens, but I'm assuming they just show up and cause chaos. Yeah, basically, because this is like the middle of the episode before Akane realizes that something's up with him. As far as she is concerned, Ranma was nice to her, and then like an hour later, Nabiki's like, hey, I just saw Ranma hitting on a bunch of girls out in public. What's up with that? And Akane's like, he wouldn't do that.
She's very confused.
And she goes and sees him with Ukyo and Shampoo, and so then that's what she asks, like, how do you really feel? It's sort of like earlier in the episode, because immediately once she puts the bandage on him, he starts kind of complimenting her and flirting with her in a way that he doesn't immediately find weird, which I do think is interesting. Because he immediately stops himself when it's with, like, Kasumi, but with Akane, it takes him a second to realize he's being influenced. But, like, as far as Akane's concerned, that is Ranma opening up in a way he never does, and then she immediately sees him doing that to other girls. Therefore, it no longer feels special, the moment that they just had an hour ago.
And she's confused by it, and she's trying to make sense of it. She's not even in the I'm angry phase, she's in the what?
Yeah.
What the heck?
She is just legitimate. Like, she acts like legitimately hurt. Like, actually, like, how do you feel? What is this, Ranma? Like, she's not offended or upset. She just wants to understand what is even happening.
Alright, so Ranma's jumped. He saved her from the fall. He's laying down on the rubble. She's on top of him. She's crying. He calls her cute. One of them, I don't remember which one, says, my heart is beating like crazy. Her head is on his chest, and they are cuddling and blushing, and they're comfortable with each other. And I think this is a very interesting scene, because it's true that they still think that he's got the bandage on. So, they have the excuse to act that way. And as soon as it's pointed out, they do jump away, but they clearly don't mind what is happening here. They are enjoying being...
Yeah.
This is again one of those moments, just like the past one, where they are enjoying the moment of intimacy, where it's physical. It's very physical. The most sensual act in Ranma, more sensual than being groped from behind by Kuno, is while someone is falling, you catch them in your arms, or vice versa, and then take serious damage. That is the most loving physical act you can do, I think, in Ranma. And so there's this emotional intimacy where, the things he's saying to her, the connection they're feeling is real. It's not like the red string of fate, even if it's facilitating it, and it's also facilitating for other people. And he's clearly demonstrated prioritizing her multiple times. The only time he has ever not saved her was the time he saved Nabiki, which again was why that arc happened. It wasn't just, you didn't save me this time. It's, the thing you give me is you save me when we fall. And you did that for my sister. So that's like cheating. Because again, catching someone you fall is that is the supreme act of love, or one of them. It's up there with, it is a supreme act of love that is up there with successfully cooking something for an anniversary. Those are two of the greatest things you can do.
I'd say it's less that, she sees it more like cheating, but more like in this episode is a similar thing, where, it's more that, what she thought was special is revealed to be something that he'd do with anyone. It's not just her. He would save anyone from a fall in the exact same way. This thing that she thought was an intimate connection between the two of them is not something exclusive to her. He can rescue Nabiki the same way. He can flirt with Shampoo and Ukyo the same way, as far as she was concerned for most of the episode. It no longer feels special.
That's something that people who have been cheated on often express as a concern about it, that those things don't feel special anymore. So, but either way, you would be hard pressed, I think, to find something more intimate where both people are engaged positively in it than falling to near certain doom while being held by Ranma in the universe of Ranma 1/2. In fact, I suspect, rather than sexual intercourse, falling to your potential doom is how babies are made.
You can't disprove this.
Yeah, we can't disprove it. We honestly don't know how babies are made. Nobody tell us, we'll figure it out eventually. But also, they are using... The Band-Aid allows them to ignore the stuff that always gets in the way. The trauma, the disappointments, the fear of vulnerability. All of those things, they have an excuse not to think about them. And even when the excuse gets removed, they jump away. But it's not like when she hits him because she's angry at him. It's more like they jump away, but they're blushing at each other and kind of smiling like, that was nice, actually. And it's very sweet.
They're very embarrassed. And they don't immediately revert back to their usual dynamic. They linger in that state a little bit.
It's an interesting scene, and it tells us, I think, a lot about their relationship. And it's not, they're scared of being on display is another thing. That's why they connect at night on the roof. And so that's that episode. So I've got some basic thoughts about Ranma intimacy.
I do at least want to point out the last joke is when they go home, but by the time they arrive, it's sunup. So, yeah, as you said with the dads, they're very happy to see their kids together, but also they just spent the whole night out. So it's literally like, this is great, but also you're grounded.
Yeah, which is not fair, because Ranma was under a curse from, yet again, it's the dad's fault in a lot of ways, because they let the master live there.
They let him use the same first aid kit as everyone else. That's just asking for problems. So
we got a couple of things. So we've got yearning being the fundamental focus of relationships. Yearning and disdain. That's most relationships. And it's just acceptable on Ranma Earth to continue pursuing someone who disdains you, but you're never going to get them to fall for you. That seems to be the case. But you can move in with them and work at their Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but it's there. One of the most true and intense things you can do with a person physically, more than any of the, groping or nudity charged things that have happened, is falling to your doom, getting caught, being held and saved. If you want to show romance, that's what you need to have. If you're not being saved or saving someone, you're single. I'm sorry. Genma, did you save Nodoka? Has she jumped off a cliff lately? Maybe you guys need to go to like a very cliff-ridden region full of earthquakes and, have her fall, and then you can swing in your panda arms and catch her,
Ranma has saved his mom from falling twice.
Look, I don't want to analyze the Oedipal nature of that, but it's not unreasonable. Looking at some specifics, also, it's very okay to just brainwash, gaslight, mind control, whatever, to get someone to love you. Cologne expressly approves and helps, but only a little bit, whenever Shampoo's trying to do this. Ukyo, who is Ranma's best friend, is not above doing it. Akane isn't disgusted by them doing this. She just doesn't want them to do it to Ranma. Even kidnapping women is acceptable social behavior, because in the second movie, a lot of women get kidnapped to be brides, and then one of them gets chosen by the king, and then the rest are given to his minions. And the girls aren't like, oh, this is wrong. Oh, this is an outrage. They're looking at like, well, is this a good marriage partner for me? Like Nabiki's like, well, how much, I don't get the king. Well, how much money do you have?
You gotta be quick to improvise in this setting.
Yeah. And Ranma's trying to marry the king in that episode and wins at all of the bridal challenges and still doesn't get it and is outraged. And I think fairly so, because instead he chooses to marry for the woman who's going to dom him, which is Akane in this instance. But so all of this stuff, this is just normal behavior in this world. No one says, oh, we're going to call the cops. Oh, we're going to stop this wedding. It's, you have stolen someone from my family and I'm going to get them back. Or you're trying to marry the woman I love, so I'm going to stop you. It's a very specific approach. They don't moralize about it. And I think that's very unhealthy. At least in our world, it would be. Getting into some more specifics, Ranma, I think, is very innocent. He values what he is good at, which is physical acts of protection. And he is very bad at just about everything else. But he is able to read his partners and the people he cares about if he stops and thinks, which is a big if. But when he does, he doesn't perform intimacy. He does intimacy. And the difference there is it's not a performance. He can only do it genuinely unless he's motivated by cheating at a contest or winning a fight or getting free food. Then he can pretend to be a girl and flirt with you. But otherwise, he's just 100% himself.
Yeah.
Shampoo, we talked about a little bit. She's very physical. She's very superficial because for her, it's all about the roles imposed on her and her view of society. And she's got this distant detachment to family, but also this firm belief in the culture around her. It's very interesting. She's very quick to get physical with people. Ukyo has this very functional, like, I will get you, but also she's much more innocent and idealized, I feel like. Like, she's imagining, Shampoo is like, we're going to get married and do the thing and have a lot of babies. And Ukyo's like, we're cooking together and he's training out back. Kuno is a horn dog who will grope anyone, but he gets so distracted by his interests. At the start of movie 2, he's on a boat and all of the girls are there, including Ranma and Akane, in like very revealing swimsuits, and he's staring at the ocean giving a speech about being a man. And then they're on the beach in swimsuits again, and he's not even paying a lick of attention to them. He's building his boat.
Boats are important.
He doesn't care about them until the girls start getting kidnapped, and then he grabs Ranma from behind in his standard Kuno grope, and it's like, what are you doing? I don't think he sees them as people. I think he sees them as ideals to possess, which is a very common problem in this show, honestly.
Yeah.
Ryoga is very pervy, jumping between innocent la-la fantasies and thinking dirty thoughts about Ranma doing things to Akane, which I think might have more to say about his feelings about Ranma than his feelings about Akane. I don't know.
He has gotten the occasional nosebleed.
Now, Nabiki is interesting because I think of all the characters, she's the most mature of the teen characters, specifically. Now, she is a little older than them, if I remember correctly, but she, for example, has an understanding of what will sell on the open market sexually, and she will use this to her advantage. She also recoils from intimacy, though instead preferring to maintain absolute control over her interactions with people, even when she's dating Ranma or when she's spending time alone with him. She's got a JoJo-level plan for what to do with Ranma when he is alone with her. It suggests that she's very uncomfortable letting go of the wheel. It's not healthy. I feel like she needs some help, some counseling. So, and finally, for the purposes of this episode, Akane, innocent. She thinks about mature things, but she thinks a lot about the emotional things and about meaning in a way a lot of the other characters don't. She wants to build a life with Ranma. It's not just food. There's an element of memorializing the relationships, of remembering the past that none of the other characters really do. She's the sentimental one. You know, she remembers her mom. She remembers them arriving. She creates these little mementos. And she wants Ranma to care about the things that she cares about. She wants to be able to care about those things together with him. And that's why the fact that he's often able to do that, even though he has to learn and do something stupid first, why I think they might actually be the strongest couple on the show and arguably the most healthy. You can't have a relationship if only one person wants it. And so many of these characters only care about what they want. And Ranma and Akane, in terms of each other, are the only ones that seem to care about both of them wanting it. And I think that's really beautiful. And that's the end of the report. And now that I have taken full control of this podcast and Hedgey cannot begin to challenge my power. See, she's not even saying anything.
The sound effect is already played. I'm in charge again.
What?
So anyways, don't worry. When you listen, you'll hear it. I hope everyone enjoyed this discussion. We learned so much about the characters. We covered admittedly, some pretty decent filler episode. Usually when I have like a collection of filler, there's at least one of them that's like, yeah, it's filler, but I would recommend any of these, honestly.
They're very solid episodes.
Yeah, as well as any of the other examples we briefly covered. But yeah, Ranma is just such an interesting series, and we didn't really get into it, but like compared to, at the start, you sort of mentioned like romantic comedies, and I'm thinking of like, especially when it comes to anime romantic comedies, and especially from the 80s and 90s, like a lot of them lean into the cartooniness, but it's a very different style of cartooniness. Where like the concept of intimacy is even closer to what a Looney Tune would consider intimate. I feel like there's more meat on these big giant cartoon steak bones.
The ones that are tied to Ranma.
Yes.
And that's the interesting thing there also is these characters do have internality to some level. Yes, they're simple constructs. They have consistent desires. They do evolve over the course of the series that is in a way that is different from shows like, say, Urusei Yatsura, or a lot of the shonen romances of the time, where a lot of the male and female characters stay flat personality-wise, and then it's just a matter of will they get together. Here, it's not about will they get together. It's about how they get together and how they react to the circumstances doing it.
How would the hypothetical relationship function if they were to get together? I feel like Ranma asks us to think about that more often, which, as I said before, I think that's why there's so much Ranma fanfiction compared to other series from that era. It kind of encourages you to think about those details that the series never explores. So yeah, all kinds of intimacy, romantic, emotional, spiritual. There's a lot to unpack there, and the takeaway I guess I want to take here is just how complex some of these characters can be when you think of them as more than just cartoons. And as we started here and throughout, what that says about intimacy in the real world, because that's what Ranma is really about. That's what this podcast is about, and has been since I started it. I, the host of
yes.
Don't Know What to Do, your favorite Ranma One-Half podcast.
As my grandfather always said to me, if someone else starts a podcast, make sure you're the one who finishes it. Good night.
Good night. Wait. God damn it!